You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 147. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is an author, as well as the founder and owner of Michael Moore Photography and Created to Recover. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by his story. Let's chop it up with Michael Moore. Michael, how's it going, man?
It is going good. How are you?
I'm glad to hear that. And all is well on my end, too. First things first. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
I'm honored to be on it.
Yes, sir. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you're doing in the entrepreneurial space with the photography business, as well as what you're doing as an author. But before we go there, let's get to know the man behind it all. Born and raised in Lowndes County. What was your upbringing like?
You know, I grew up in a Christian home, so my upbringing was a good one. I have nothing negative to say about it whatsoever. My parents taught me, great values, and I have, what a lot of kids aren't getting today. So I'm really grateful for that upbringing.
Powerful stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Sounds like you had a great village when you were growing up.
I did. I did.
Yeah, and I definitely understand what you were alluding to, just talking about just what a lot of kids, didn't have growing up. And it sounds like you had that family structure, that discipline, but you also had that love and affection in the household. All of that is important to our upbringing.
Absolutely. All of that was inclusive. You know, just everything, the love, the correction, the discipline, the teaching on how to just get out in the world and, be who we call, be who we are called to be.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And big on that discipline portion, man. I'm an 80s baby, so I came up in that last of the Mohegans, man, just in that generation where discipline meant you got spanked if you got out of line. But it wasn't abuse. Well, at least we didn't label it that. I'll speak for me, as I got older and I got grown, I appreciate them butt whoopings now. I'm pretty sure you can attest to the same.
Absolutely. I mean, they are very much needed today. I it didn't feel good then, but I appreciate them now because it made me a better person.
Yes, sir. 1000%. So you do your schooling, grade school in Lowndes County, finish up there and make your way up to AUM, Auburn University, Montgomery. What was that college life experience like for you?
Well, I went through a photography program because, naturally I'm just a very artistic person. And so I went to do something that I knew that I was very gifted at. The program was great. It helped me to sharpen my skills and it just helped me to launch forward in everything that I've been doing photography wise, etc. And then, shortly after that, I launched my photography business and everything else was history.
Okay, makes sense. Good stuff. So when did you first discover you had a love for photography?
I want to say it was about maybe when I was 16 years old. The only thing that I kind of remember very faintly is my mother having a 35 millimeter old school camera in the house. And for some reason, I took to it naturally. And then from there, I just fell in love with just capturing all the moments. I had a camera every single day. And it was around the time where the throwaway cameras became very popular. So every week or every 2 weeks, I had a throwaway camera. I took photos of everything that moved. I just like creating art. Like I said, as long as I can remember myself, I've been an artist. I used to draw freehand and just everything artistic. I was very, very engaged with the arts.
Okay, now that's good stuff. So at 16, you knew what you wanted to do with your life, and that's amazing that you stuck to it and you fulfill that prophecy, because a lot of times us at 16, a lot of us, myself included, we really didn't know what we wanted to be. We thought well, I thought I wanted to be in the NFL. Then I realized you have to be kind of good at football to make it in the NFL. So scratch that dream really early. Then I realized I wanted to go into tech and work in computers, which I do present day work in tech. And I think that's great. At 16, you fell in love with photography, and you took it back with the throwaway camera. Those were the days you dropped them cameras off at CBS.
Right. And even then, I didn't know what it would become. I was just discovering, taking photos and how the whole process worked. I did not know at 16 that it would one day be a business of mine, but that didn't materialize until later on. But the discovery that I was interested in cameras was then.
Yes, sir, and that's powerful. And just hearing you talk about that, it just sounds like your family didn't try to shun you away from that vision, that love for photography. Sounds like they more or less supported you.
Yeah, well, at that time they really didn't know it was gonna be a business either, but they didn't stop me from, taking photos and doing different things like that. Like I mentioned, there were several things around the house that were, that was a part of the arts that I showed interest in. And, anytime I show interest in anything, I put time into it. So they always supported, the things that I have done in the past and the things that I'm still doing today.
That's amazing, and that's so powerful that you had that village that supported you and didn't didn't try to shoot down your dreams, didn't try to hinder you from taking those pictures, and just allowed you to explore and be creative. Like that's amazing. Like that's more powerful than than you probably didn't. Of course, at the time, like you say, you didn't know it was gonna be a business, but in hindsight, 2020, looking back, you like, wow, like my parents, they gave me the creative freedom to discover this gift and hone it. That's amazing stuff, Michael.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
Grateful.
sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So, present day, you're the owner, operator of Michael Moore Photography. So, as it relates to the type of clients you typically shoot for, do you have like a niche, or what's your core audience?
Well, I work with a combination of different type of people. I love working with people generally. And whether you are a celebrity or just everyday person, I like to make everybody feel like they are significant because they are. And like I said, I shoot all types of people with all types of titles, with all types of influence, and some celebrities, some everyday people. But I enjoy all of them.
That's amazing. Just hearing you talk about it like that, it almost sounds like what you do in the photography space doesn't feel like work to you.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Mm.
I mean, it takes a lot of skill and effort and energy, and it's a lot of hard work. But it's a different type of hard work when you're called to do it.
Hmm. That's amazing stuff, powerful stuff. So whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things: the aha moment, action, and audacity. Take us back to your aha moment when you first had the idea to take your love for photography and turn it into a business.
That's an easy one right there because I remember just being in church one day and I ended up texting a friend of mine. You may know her, Kendra Goodwin. And Kendra, I've been knowing Kendra for a lot of years, but I text her because she enjoyed taking pictures all the time. I enjoyed capturing the photos. So I called her and I said, look, are you busy? I'm not going to be busy once I get out of church. So let's go out to Shakespeare and take photos for MySpace. So that was doing MySpace days, where we were able to go in and create our own, web page on MySpace. So, like I said, it was doing that time, and we hooked up. And as we hooked up out there, and I started taking photos, but when we both sat down and looked at the photos, we both realized that, wow, this is a bit more advanced than we both anticipated. I naturally had an eye for photography. I didn't know that it was, that good. But at that moment, the gift that I had that I did not know I had was discovered in that moment. And she encouraged me that you should pursue this because this is more than just capturing a photo. This is something much bigger. And after giving it some thought, I decided that I'm gonna pursue this and I'm gonna move forward with doing whatever I need to do to make this, a business of mine.
Mm. That's an amazing story and a powerful aha moment. And yeah, you took us back with the MySpace. Those are good times, man. You, what's so cool about MySpace, Michael? And like I said, hindsight is 2020. We were back then. We were coding and didn't even know we were coding. It was cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, really doing some advanced work and didn't even know it.
Exactly. We just so caught up in the social aspect of it, which rightfully so. I mean, it was all new to us, and we was on MySpace. We had all these graphics in the background, and we just had the whole shebang. But now that's great that a friend called you up and wanted to do a photo shoot, and that was when you had the aha moment to take this love, take this gift, and turn it into a business. So the next portion, the action, it doesn't sound like it took you a long time to get started in business once you had your aha moment. If so, how long did it take you to come up with the name and get the LLC?
Well, naturally, I'm called as a businessman, but you don't know a lot of things right off the cuff. So I had to do a lot of growing. I had to understand how to start a business. I had the drive and it was, it took a lot of trial and error because the business started out with a different name. It was named Angelic Photography. And that is so funny to me because looking back, my reason for naming it Angelic Photography, because I was trying to use a name that would describe my work and the excellences that, the excellent work that I produce, I wanted to use a name to describe that. But after a short while, I changed it to Michael Moore Photography because I thought it would be more fitting to have it, named after myself.
Okay, that sounds good. And that's what it's all about, Michael, just making those pivots, making those changes, and being willing to change because you could have easily left it at angelic photography. And not to say it would have, I mean, and that's a catchy name. I mean, I'm not
I,
that's a great I mean, I mean, definitely a catchy name, but Michael Moore Photography, it's just smooth. It's a Michael Moore Photography, man. It just
right.
off the tongue. But now that's great that you're willing to make that pivot and make that change. And that last portion, that audacity, is one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to put action behind the idea, but to put it out to the world to be praised and or criticized. That's where the audacity comes from. So I know you mentioned that your friends did the first photo shoot with. She was part of that reason, part of that person. She was the person who gave you that courage, that audacity to get started. Was there anyone else who was involved with that?
I would say, she was the first one. Of course, my parents always, they've always been big cheerleaders of mine. So I would have to say them as well. But I really can't remember if anybody just other than them two that just pushed me. But I would say that everybody who knew me then are they were always used to seeing me with a camera. So whether they pushed me or not, they know that I had a camera all the way back in high school and I took all the photos. And so if they remember nothing else about me, they remember I've always had a camera.
Hmm. That's
And
amazing
they
stuff.
all and they always ran to have me to take their photo.
Mm, that's powerful stuff. And once again, it just sounds like that village, like that we talked about earlier. It just sounds like that village played a pivotal role in getting his business off the ground. And it's so amazing because Michael, in most cases, we think of it takes a village from the context of a child. It takes a village in all at all levels in life, you know? Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, sir. So
Absolutely.
crushing it, doing great things with the photography business, and you've had a chance to build up your clientele. And so you started in Montgomery and you ended up moving to Georgia. So what led to the decision to move the business to Georgia?
Well, I knew that it would eventually happen, not because Montgomery wasn't good enough. That was most definitely not the reason why I moved, because the people in Montgomery and just Montgomery in general, I am super grateful for everything that I was able to do in Montgomery, because it helped me to be the businessman that I am today. The people who gave me chances, the people who trusted me, to create whatever they needed, photo wise. And so I learned a whole lot, just how to, run a business and, continue to build clientele. And even when I was in Montgomery doing business full time, I was still traveling to Georgia to service clients here as well. And my reason for shifting, because I knew there would be a shift around 2010, but I didn't move until 2023, you know, and it was in the making. And the reason why I knew, because I just felt in my spirit that God wanted me to shift at some point, because it had everything to do with destiny and what he purposed for me to do. So I knew that when I had that inkling, it was a timing thing. There was time was involved. And so fast forward, you know, I made the shift, and I'm still traveling back to Montgomery, servicing clients there, where it used to be stationary for me to be in Montgomery, and I used to travel to Georgia. Things just flipped. So now I'm stationary in Georgia, but I still travel back to Montgomery. So I have not kicked, Montgomery to the curb whatsoever. And I don't plan to ever, but I just, I shifted things around just so that I could be a bit closer to certain caliber of clients that I have the capacity to reach and to service, because what I do, my skill level, I want to be able to maximize, my greatest potential in what it is that I do, and not settle for, less, when I know that I have the capacity to produce so much greater. So a part of that was just wanting to advance the career, wanting to take everything to the next level, and just have access to certain things that I did not have direct access to in Montgomery.
Wow, and that's powerful stuff. And that's definitely, I don't receive that as you kick Montgomery to the curb. You were self-aware, like you said. You wanted to maximize your potential. You wanted to have exposure and access to a certain caliber of clients. And Montgomery wasn't necessarily providing you with that. So you made the shift, you made the pivot to Georgia, where you are present day, rocking and rolling. Now, I don't think that's kicking to the curb. If anything, Michael, I commend you for being obedient and having the courage, the audacity to make that move. It would have been easy for you to stay in Montgomery where you were comfortable at, and everything was familiar and you knew the market. But for you to realize, you know what, I need to maximize my potential. So let me make that move. Let me make that shift to Georgia. I think that's very commendable. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, no problem, no problem. But the most important part of that is I moved in the time that God told me to move. I just didn't get up and do something because it was popular to do it, but I moved in the timing that was set aside for me to move. So I have to put that there, because I always like for people to, if God called you to do something, and He has given all of us, a destiny, then he has the exact timing and everything for which we should do anything. So always pursue God, so that when the time is right, you'll know it, and then you'll have that confidence that you did the right thing.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And I agree wholeheartedly. And what you're just describing is being obedient, being faithful, and like that. it really takes faith to really make a move from the familiar. I know, we hear people talk about I have faith, but the good book breaks down what faith really is. You know,
Absolutely.
it's the things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. And for you to make that move to Georgia, I mean, well, let me ask you this, Michael. When you got ready to make that move to Georgia, did you have all your ducks in a row? Or what was that transition period like? And I'm sorry, go
It was it
ahead.
was nerve wracking, number one, And like I said, is a big difference in traveling somewhere and coming back and traveling back and forth. But it's another one when you have to make that shift because you're leaving what you established over here for so many years to something you is pretty much like starting over again. And of course, the process was, it was nerve wracking a bit, but at the same time, I knew that I was doing the right thing and I was doing it at the right time. But I didn't have all the ducks in a row, but I had what I needed to continue to move forward. The important parts I had in place. And that which I didn't have, I took it one day at a time. And I'm still taking it today, one day at a time.
Mm. And that's exactly, and I figured that was gonna be an answer in terms of not having all your ducks in a row, and it just goes back to you having that faith, because a lot of times, and myself included, a lot of times people we like to wait until everything is perfect before we move. The fact of the
Right.
matter is, not everything will never be perfect. There will always be something. The weather won't be right, money won't be right. It's it's gonna always be something.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's not a faith walk if you have everything in line. It's not
Bingo.
a faith walk. It's not something that God called you to do if you have everything in line. It's just not.
hmm I agree wholeheartedly. No, that's spot on. And thanks again for just sharing that journey, and we're went into that transition from Montgomery into what you got going on in Georgia. So also in the entrepreneurial space, you're also an author, and I see you've authored multiple books. And this is a rather tough question. It's gonna be like asking which child is your favorite of all the books that you've authored, Michael. Which book is your favorite and why?
You know, that's a real hard question right there. Real hard question. Um, I don't think that I have like a favorite, but I will say this. The one that I will never ever forget is the very first book. The very first book. It will always be significant to me because for many years I knew I had a strong inkling that I would write one day. And I've had moments where I tried and it just fell through. But still, something in me was like, I feel like God is going to give me the grace to write a book. And I still have the very first book that I attempted to write. And I want to say it had to be at least maybe 2007. I want to say maybe around 2007. I still have the official pages, but I would say the my first book, because it was nothing that I've ever done before. I never wrote a book, but I felt really strong that I could. And through the whole process, I was really trailblazing, and God was giving me, as I was writing the book, things would just fall in place, and He would give me, okay, add this and add that, and even like literally how it came about. I was sitting in church one day, and out of nowhere, I heard it clear as day. And I grabbed my phone and I said, I believe God just gave me a book to write, my first book. And I also said to myself, if this is God, I will start writing this book the next day and I won't stop. Literally, 10 publications later, I have not stopped writing yet. So that was God for sure. And so that book is very special to me because it was the blueprint that even in because I never wrote a book before back then, God was just giving me my own blueprint on how to put a book together from the beginning to the end. And so once I got that down pat and understood the pattern, then I was able to produce book after book after book after book after book because I've gone through that trailblazing process. And so now I know how to do it with no problem.
Hmm. That's amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I did sort it out by publication date. Is your first book entitled God's Mind on the Matter?
Absolutely. Yep. That was the
Okay.
first one.
Okay. Hey, I was gonna say if I got it wrong, blame Amazon because I sorted it out by I sorted it out by publication dates. But no, that's an amazing story, Michael. Just you being in church and just hearing it clear as day and just declaring on that day that God just gave you a book and being obedient and just being willing to, like I said, just be obedient and write the book. And I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, like just in terms of being able to create and book being somewhat a form of art, are there any parallels in what you do in your photography and how you prep for photo shoots as it relates to writing books? Are there any parallels there?
Absolutely. A book is a creative process, every part. You know, you have the cover, you have the inside, you have just the formatting. All of that is a form of art. And for me, I'm intentional about every page. I'm intentional about the cover. I'm intentional about how things flow. So the process of writing the book, you know, it's not only just literary work, it's also artistic work as well. Because once you finish writing everything, you have to artistically place everything in a certain order. It has to flow, it has to look aesthetically appealing, and it has to have that commercial appeal to it. So there's a lot of aspects of photography and just graphic designing that goes into the completion of a book.
Hmm. Makes sense. Make perfect sense. And I kind of figured there was some parallels there between the two, and I appreciate you for breaking that down. And I'm looking now, and I see that your first book was independently published. What led to the decision to go independent on the first book?
You know, just wanting to have, honestly, I don't think I really gave it a lot of thought. I didn't know a lot of things about publishing companies, etc. I knew some people who had wrote books and released them, and I really, you know, enjoyed their process, and I've made a couple of calls and, you know, asked questions. You know, what are the pros, what are the cons? And of course, anytime that you do self-publishing, you have complete control over, you know, the book content and how it's designed and different things like that. And then of course, you know, you also have certain, when it comes down to book sales and different things like that, those percentages, you know, you have control over that as well. So that was my reason for, you know, going to a self-publishing method versus, you know, a traditional way of going with a publisher. Maybe one day, you know, I will have one book that is distributed by an actual publishing company. But until then, I enjoy, you know, the whole process of self-publishing and, you know, putting it all together. It's a lot of work, but I know the process pretty well now.
Yes, sir. That makes sense. And I'm on board with 100% creative control. And I commend you for your decision to publish independently. And hey, I won't be mad at you if you never use a major publishing house because you want to know why, Michael? Because creative control, it doesn't get any better than having creative control because it's your baby. You get to write what you want to write, how you want to write it. Because of course, if if you under some type of umbrella or some major publication, they may try to
Mhm.
tailor your writing style or
Right,
how
right.
it goes. So trust me, I definitely understand why you did it, and I appreciate you for sharing just your journey as an author.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So you've done great things in the photography space as well as in the space as an author. And I know great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion, vision. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals as it relates to you as an entrepreneur you feel comfortable sharing?
Well, there's still things that I'm doing with photography. You probably don't know this, but I have an organization called Create to Recover. And this organization is about we just released our third short film project in Montgomery last month. And to give you a brief synopsis of what Created to Recover is about, we take different individuals who have gone through, maybe like a drug addiction or something where they just gone through a lot of issues in life, but they made it out and they made it out on top. And we take those individuals through a whole makeover because we want to show them and to give them a different perspective of who they are. They were created to recover. I like to make sure that people see themselves the way that God sees them. So a fresh makeover really does, and it goes a long way. Not only do we do head to toe makeovers, we also walk them through a full fledged interview and we capture everything on film. We capture the makeovers on film. We capture just their stories on film because I always, from the very beginning, I wanted to create a platform that housed different people's testimonies so that other people who think that it's just them or they're alone and nobody is going through the things that they've gone through, that there are other people in the world that have gone through the same thing. They've recovered and, they are back in the world doing the things that God called them to do. And so we are all created to recover from whatever life hits us with, whatever situation, downfall, just no matter how bad it is, we were created to recover. And that website for Created to Recover is www.createdtorecover.org. And as I said, we just finished an amazing project that is up on YouTube as well. So you can check it out yourself. And I want to push that project more. I want it to be bigger. I want it to be better because there's so many stories out there that need to be told. And there's so many makeovers and, and giving people an experience of a lifetime. There's nothing like giving back in a way that, number one, I'm gifted in, but to be able to see people who sees themselves in a brand new light, how that glow that they know they didn't have before, you're able to see something different. They're able to feel different about themselves, new self-esteem, just all of that goes into it. So I have been doing that for some years now, and we're on we just completed our third project, and I'm looking forward to launching the beginning of a fourth project, hopefully sometime soon. So Created to Recover is a project that I'm very passionate about. And it includes photography and videography. It includes just interviewing and just a big, excellent artistic atmosphere that makes it all come together.
Wow, Created to Recover. That's so powerful that you created that space to help people to get that makeover and not kick them while they're down and being a helping hand and picking up your fellow man. And it just it just goes back to one of those biblical principles where and I'll paraphrase it because I don't have it right in front of me. Just it's one of those things. How can you say you love God when you don't love your brother? But you're showing love
Right.
to the people who have made different decisions in life. I mean, and it's no it's not my place or anyone's place to judge them because we're all one or two decisions away from a different life. So I
Right.
just commend you for sharing that and being willing to create that safe space and being willing to be 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 a solution seeker because it's easy to say, oh, this, that, and the third. It's easy to complain, but it's one thing to
Mhm.
actually be a solution seeker. So it just sounds like one of your goals is to just continue to expand that project and get his
Yeah,
name out there.
yeah, expand that project and just expose it more and so that people can see the value in it so that they can help me to keep pushing it forward. And business side of things, just always looking for ways to take what I have and expand it. I love teaching what I do. So I want to get into more so being able to do workshops and different things just so that I can pour back into other people who are gifted in the same areas as I am, to help sharpen them and to teach them values and different things of that nature. But at the same time, to continue to expand the brand and continue to take it to whatever heights that it's supposed to be.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. And thank you for sharing those goals, short term and long term. And I have no doubt you'll continue to expand the brands and do great things.
Absolutely. No problem.
Yes, sir. As we wrap up the podcast, Michael, I want to ask the $1,000,000 question. I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery. Whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you attending college here and spending a good bit of your time here in Montgomery, I want to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery as it relates to your overall development as an entrepreneur and man?
What do I appreciate about the city of Montgomery as it relates to my overall development?
Yes.
I would say this. I appreciate Montgomery and the people of Montgomery, that they didn't allow, what people may consider, negative about Montgomery, or it wasn't cultural and all of these different things that people normally say. I'm very grateful that the time that I spent doing business there, which were many years, there were many people that didn't carry that stigma, because I was able to sustain my business there. And so I think where you may have just a few people that have a certain mindset, but that wasn't the majority of the people, because I produced many years there and produced well and still produce well. And so I really like the fact that, that many people are open-minded to great people who are great at what they do. Everybody is not afraid of greatness. Everybody is not afraid of, going to being serviced by someone who has trained for a very long time to be excellent with what he does. And so I appreciate those people there. I appreciate just everything that I was able to accomplish, and everything that I was able to learn as an entrepreneur. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense. That was powerful, and I appreciate you for just sharing what Montgomery meant to you and just what it being in this city, how it helped your overall development. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. So, Michael, how can the people connect with you? What are your social media handles and website?
Well, if anybody want to connect with me for photography, they can go to www.michaelmoraphotography.com. If they are interested in books, they can go to michaelmorabooks.com. And if they want to connect where Created to Recover is concerned, createdtorecover.org. And from all of those websites, they can connect with me on any of the social media platforms. There will be buttons that they can just press and it'll take them straight to the page.
Okay, sounds good. Too easy. And of course, I'll put all of the information in the description of the episode. Hey, Michael, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Go. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.